Welcome into the Sick of 365 post-game show. I am Paul Catalina alongside Garrett Ross, and Baylor just loses in really heartbreaking fashion in two ways around, 20-13 to Utah. Let's kind of good, bad, and ugly this thing, Garrett, right off the bat.
All right.
The good. They really played with a lot of heart and toughness and fire today. That was what I expect from Dave Aranda teams on a baseline. That was the baseline Dave Aranda, Jeff Grimes, Matt Powledge, Eric Mateos kind of toughness that we saw. And the offensive line played better, although they still got problems.
Yep.
Dominic Richardson is a really, really good player and a really perfect fit for this offense. So those are all good things. The defense was a Dave Aranda defense for the most part. The bad thing is Utah is clearly the more experienced team, and in crunch time made those plays and had to do it with their third-string quarterback, which I wonder, had Kyle Whittingham been able to kind of pull that trigger earlier and put Nate Johnson in and take Bryson Barnes out, if this game would not have come down to what was a crazy situation at the end of the game. And exactly why they were trying not to score the touchdown, because they didn't want a weird thing to happen. And Baylor, look, that was, you can criticize all you want. I'm not trying to pump sunshine. That was a positive step. The problem is that they've now lost a game that they were favored by 4 touchdowns and then let an upset get away.
Yeah, this is one of those situations where, Matt Jones, I think, had one of his better days at Baylor. You saw what he's able to do at the linebacker position. He had a couple of big plays, big hits there. The offensive line still needs to be more disciplined. But at the same time, they showed growth. They showed progression. They were able to open up some big holes there. And you got to wonder at the end of the day if Utah's regretting not being able to put Nate Johnson out there. But, Baylor was able at the end. You got a great throw by Sawyer Robertson. I think that he showed a lot of promise. You see the upside. You see why they like him as a quarterback because of some of the throws he was able to make. But, yeah, they just got to be more disciplined, because at the end of the day, it's the self-inflicted things for Baylor that has them sitting at 0-2.
Yeah. However, 12 of 28, 218, and 2 picks for Sawyer Robertson. Not going to get it done.
It's not.
Not going to get it done. And look, Bryson Barnes was even worse, 6 of 19 for 71 yards. Nate Johnson, when he came in, they let him throw the ball 6 of 7, 82 yards. Also, ran 11 carries, 32 yards. Jaquindon Jackson had a big day.
Yeah.
Although he seems like he's still a little banged up to you and me, Garrett. We talked about that for Utah. But this is – it's just – I think that when you get into it, and give us a call, 254-339-1122 on what you think about this, I just don't – I don't know. I don't know where Baylor really sits as we kind of hurdle through the rest of the season here. This is going to be kind of a sticky wicket for them all the way around, because you have not let 2 wins get away, because last week you just got it handed to you.
Yeah.
But you have, you've let one get away that would have been a huge, huge upset and an emotional momentum builder for you. A lot of people think they should have called pass interference on that last play. I think you definitely could. I think that's a weird thing that you always see, like in those moments, like, do you let it go because it is what it is? I don't know. Paxton thinks they should call pass interference. Let's see. Boom.
I understand that, but at the end of the day, it shouldn't come down to needing to call or needing to be in a situation where we're judging the final call. Like, Baylor had plenty of opportunities throughout the day to make plays. They just weren't able to do it. I'm still trying to figure out where in this offense, like the whole idea when you brought in Dominic Richardson, right, was to get back to what you had a couple years ago when you had Abram Smith and you had Treston Ebner. They still aren't able to get both running backs going at the same time. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm not able to figure out, because we know what Richard Reese is able to do. He set the freshman record last year, but when he's got, 7 carries, 21 yards, that's not going to cut it. And as far as your receivers, you've shown, Hal Presley's shown he can go up and get it. He can make plays. Keytron can do the same. Drake Dabney. Like, think about Drake Dabney against Texas State. This is a guy who had one of the better days at the tight end position. He has one target all day long. Like, you've got to figure out a way to get some juice going in this offense. And I think they did a good job of trying to spread the field, but the inconsistencies, man, that was, at the end of the day, that's kind of what got them.
Yeah. 254-339-1122. Give us a call. The lines are open and connected to the right computer today.
Yeah, I did that.
Time.
I got that.
That's, look, the first game for everybody, it's got jitters, even us. And so second game, you improve most from week 1 to week 2. Look what we're doing here on the post-game show, guys. I just, like, there are more, I think, the good news, if you really want good news if you're a Baylor fan. The positives today are a lot more. I mean, like, the the positives don't really ever outweigh the negatives when you lose, but there is a better balance on the scales of good and bad, right?
Yeah.
And so today was a better balance. They really played tough. And if they can play that kind of tough, then they're going to, for each and every week, then they're going to have an okay season. But if that was just a one-off deal, if they can't build that back up, because look, they've got Long Island next week, that should be your get right game. And if they can get right a little bit, then they've got Texas and UCF back to back.
Yeah.
And that's going to be tough. I say Texas and UCF, and I'm being very rude about leaving out who's right after that, because it's not like Texas, UCF, and then Waco High that they have. No, they've got Texas, UCF, and Texas Tech back to back to back. So they've got to get right next week, and then they've got to get through what's going to be a storm. Now look, almost all these games are at home. They have so many home games, but their first road game is in Orlando. The first Big 12 home game for UCF, like, those things are going to be huge. They've got a lot coming down the pipeline right now, and they showed good things, but my gosh. All right, let's go to Chris in Missouri. Chris, thanks for your call.
Hey, Paul. Hey, I want to say I'm sorry that Baylor lost, but it was a much better game than last week. Even in a loss, I think they can take some pride out of that, and I hope that they were able to rebound and have a great season from this point on. Great season from this point on. Thanks.
It was a much better game. And Chris, thanks for your call. Chris, also, thank you for the super chats when you do. You're a great viewer and listener of the show. We certainly appreciate it. Also, thank you for the super chat that allowed me to go on a legit rant yesterday.
That was glorious.
There's 3 of us here, so I don't get to go on rants as much. You can't just rant like crazy.
Nah.
Then you guys are gonna put me outside, and then I'm gonna be like, the CIA put a chip in my brain. But it was a good rant. It was a good rant yesterday. And thank you, Chris in Missouri, for that. I do think that there are better things you saw. There are better things. But right now, the offense cannot take advantage of things because the defense couldn't have set them up better today.
No.
At certain times, and they just cannot take advantage of things. Part of that is playing with your backup quarterback. As much ceiling as Sawyer Robertson has, this is his first career start. And it looked at times like his first career start. Look, Bryson Barnes last week was his first career start against Florida. This actually looked more like his first career start.
He was bad.
It might be his last career start, too.
Probably should be.
But because he was not good for Utah. But the defense played well and kept you in the game by keeping that quarterback off kilter. Now, Nate Johnson came in and had 2 pretty good drives for Baylor or for Utah. And look, maybe over the whole of the game, Nate Johnson would have created more problems than that. And they, kind of played into what Utah knew that they're going to have to do as long as Cam Rising is out, is either jump out on somebody and know that your defense can boa constrict around them, or like they did against Florida last week, or just, get in one of those, like a boxing match where the fighters are like, get them tied up, tie them up and break it up, tie them up and break it up until you can just, your opponent's weak enough to where you can just throw that one and knock him out.
I think Baylor's got to figure out a way to really take advantage of third down. Like, that was an area they struggled on offense and defense last week against Texas State, especially on fourth down. Texas State was able to convert 4 of 4, and then you get in a situation today where you're Baylor, you had a lead for a vast majority of the game, but it comes to third down opportunities, you only convert 3 of 11. Like, you've got to find ways to get that yardage, stay on the field, and just like if you would have been able to probably convert 3 more third downs today, you probably would have won the game. Like, it's just little intangible things like that they're going to have to tighten up because the schedule's daunting, man. It really is at this point.
Yeah, it really is. All right, let's go to Matt in D.C. Matt, thanks for your call.
Hey, guys, thanks for taking my call. Let me just say I love the effort. I think this was the football team that I was expecting to show up last week. They didn't, so I'm just so happy that the effort, the fire was there. The defense was back. It's the Baylor defense we've had since 2021. My problem that I still hate is this offensive scheme. I still don't believe in it because it's not designed to score points. It's designed to, get to 25, maybe 30 points. I know we can't change the scheme right now, but I just don't understand how. 13 points is not going to beat anybody. Like, it's unbelievable, the fact that we just can't get to 30 and score points. I hated it during the Big 12 championship game that I was at, and just staring at how the hell we didn't score 30 points in that game, and we needed a miracle play again. And then even today, don't blame the ref, Baylor Nation. The reason why we lost is because we scored 13 points. But I love the effort. I saw a lot of positives today. The running backs are there. I just hate the fact that we never throw it on first down. Like, the defense knows that it's going to be a run left, run right, throw a pass. So I just hope we somehow just change up the offensive scheme, but this gives me a lot of hope for the team moving forward. It's going to be a good season, I think. If we play with this effort and energy today, if we can bring it next week, bring it to Texas, bring it to UCF, we can keep it going. I'm feeling good even though we lost, but hey, Baylor Nation, don't blame the ref. Blame the damn offensive scheme. I hate it. I cannot wait until we're actually running an up-tempo offense again. It doesn't have to be brawls, but I just want to be able to score more points. And thank you all again for everything I'll do, but let's just start scoring points there, Grimes. Just throw the damn ball. The damn ball. Thank y'all.
Matt, thanks for your call. Now, here, look, I'll tell you this. Here's how I feel about that. I don't totally disagree with Matt on the scheme now.
Yeah.
I disagree with him on the fact that the scheme that they had to run was the one they had to run based on the team that they had. Dave Aranda has now, and then they start recruiting towards that scheme, which is kind of like where they're at, right?
Yeah.
But and it works. It works a lot of places. What Baylor has not had, because when Jeff Grimes was the coordinator at BYU, that offense scored a ton of points, but they had a guy named Zach Wilson.
It's a little different.
So that's the difference between what's going on now is Zach Wilson and, guys like Puka Nacua was there, like they had really good skill players. I think Baylor's got the skill players. Like, the more I see it, I think they've got the skill players that can work in the offense. Right now, quarterback is an issue.
Yes.
Your starter is hurt. He played a good game last week in spite of that, and your offensive line is an issue. And if your offensive line was not an issue, like, that was the idea, was that the wide zone enables you to just kind of churn through offensive lines. Okay, these guys are gone. Boom. Step in. That's not what they've been able to do. And the offensive line was better today, but still had 4 false starts that cost them in key moments. And 3 in the first quarter, right? Or the first half took so long.
Yeah.
Because of the way that the first quarter ended, which was, Baylor got the ball with 8 seconds left. They ran one play. So there was a change of possession to 3.5-minute commercial, 1 8-second run off of the clock, a 4-minute commercial, then an injury in a 4-minute commercial. And that was like fifth. And then we had like a review, and we all these 4 things happen, and we saw like 7 plays in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It was like the end of a basketball game where each team has 3 timeouts. It was a lot. It would just, way to go. Like, I'm all for, as you know, Garrett, shortening the clock rules.
Yes.
But if TV's not also going to help out on that, and instead of going let's find other ways to advertise or enhance the product, adding another minute to every break doesn't slow it down. Basically TV tricked college football into giving it more ad time.
That's all it was. You
all it
gave
was.
them more money to make.
Yeah, you gave them more ad time, which again, college football wants because eventually that money comes back to you. But that's all it is about. And I'm for speeding up the game. And I do think that in the fourth quarter, games are a lot better now than, in my opinion, because you've got there's like the stakes are raised a little bit, the degree of difficulty is harder, and which I appreciate. But to go back to the offensive scheme, I think they're caught in the middle right now. They're caught in the middle of, and then look, Baylor had a blue chip quarterback that they thought that they were going to sign to, and that didn't happen. So like they've got like all these things have kind of happened to them. They had a quarterback battle. They had to send off a guy, Gary Bohannon, went in the transfer portal, and that was probably for the best. We'll never really know, and there's just a lot. There's just a lot that goes into the scheme that hasn't worked out for them. I do think it would not hurt them to revisit what they're doing and why, and based on the players around that they're going to be able to get, what kind of scheme those guys are coming out of, so maybe you can hit the ground running a little faster.
It's also weird because they haven't been able to put two things together that they needed at the same time, right? Like last year, even though the offensive line was hit and miss, it was much better than what it is right now, but you had no ability to make plays on the outside. And then now you come in this year, you have the playmakers, but the offensive line gives you no time. I feel like it's a situation where they just don't have the depth in the trenches, especially on the offensive side, to rotate those guys in and create those holes, because you got the right pieces in place from a running back position, right? Like Dominic Richardson and Richard Reese are dudes, but you got to open the holes up, and you're not getting that established, which isn't opening up things on the offensive side to air the ball out. But I'm really wondering with, and I understand where people are coming from by wanting that offense, especially now where it's like the hot thing and everybody is doing it. And it's weird. I just wonder how it's impacting how Baylor, from a schematic standpoint, is recruiting when a vast 95% of the schools in Texas are running these open offenses, these spread offenses, and they're developing players that are prepared for that. And when you get thrown into a scheme like what Baylor does, are you taking more time to develop, especially if you're a younger guy like Tate Williams? Like, I understand he's got a lot of upside. That was a 2A, 3A player that came from an offense that, it was just totally different. So I just feel like there's this weird conglomerate of things that are all happening at once, and they've got to figure out a way to fix it. And I think it really ultimately comes down to recruiting and adding more depth, which they've struggled at.
Yeah, they really do. Let's take a break right here. Let's reload up the phones. We'll jump into the chat room. 254-339-1122. 254-339-1122. That's the phone line. Call us. We'll get into all this. This is the postgame show on Sikkim 365.
Cars priced right both day and night. At Richard Car in Texas. Trucks built for you. Red, white, and blue. Richard Car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. At Richard Car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Car in Waco, Texas.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sikkim Bears.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? Invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, who invest their time and experience back to you and your money. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Contact Ben Erlinson at 254-750 459-8533. Chuck Verno at 720 North 64th Street. Brad Wilson's location at 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway. And Cam Heathcott in Conroe. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott. Proud sponsors of 365 Sports. Edward Jones, making sense in investing. Member SIPC.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Game Day Live on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, TFNB, Your Bank for Life, 3 Nations Brewing Company, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Edward Jones Advisors, Ben Erlinson, Chuck Verno, Brad Wilson, and Cam Heathcott, and Bubba's 33.
Welcome back. Some stuff going on around the country. Clemson 24, Charleston Southern 17 at half. Colorado absolutely housed Nebraska in front of the Wu-Tang Clan.
In front of the Wu-Tang Clan.
In front of Wu-Tang.
For the children.
Yes, in front of Wu-Tang. Look, if you invite, here's the thing, and I feel really bad for our good friend Matt Rule for this. If your opponent, look, I will invite Wu-Tang Clan to come anywhere I am. If I could ask them, like, hey, Wu-Tang, let's come and hang out. But the pressure is now on me to put on a good event.
Yes.
So if you get the Wu-Tang Clan to Boulder, Colorado, and mind you, they're from Staten Island, right? That's a long way. If you get Wu-Tang to Boulder, Colorado, you better put on a good show. Dion did that. Like, it was the Nebraska defense is really good. Tony White, great hire by Matt Rule. Great hire. They're struggling on offense mightily, and Jeff Sims got hurt, which may or may not be.
It might be the best thing for him.
I mean, you know, I don't know. They've got quarterback problems at Nebraska, big-time quarterback problems. But let's see, A&M and Miami just underway. Miami got the opening kickoff, and A&M just already looks faster to me than Miami.
Yeah.
Which there was a time in my life where that would not have been true at all.
No.
Even in A&M's like R.C. Slocum glory days, if they had played the Miami teams, Miami would have ran right past them. Notre Dame 17, NC State 7. Michigan just underway, halfway through the first quarter, a little bit more over UNLV. Tulane and Ole Miss tied at 7. 5:17 left to go, and Michael Pratt not playing in that game for Tulane. So that's what's going on around the country. We got a call. Then we are going to get into the chat room a little bit. Let's go to Joe in Waco. Joe, how are you, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing well, fellas. Good to talk with you and old Ross the boss over there. Just wanted to throw it out. One quick thing. We're talking about Rule and Sanders. Look at the dynamic there. Sanders came in, wrecked shop, redid his whole crew, brought in all these new players. Matt Rule kept his old, and yet they're still playing the old Nebraska football where Colorado's playing the new.
Whoa,
Maybe that's a new thing to think
Joe.
about.
Stop. Matt Rule brought in like 30 transfers. He ran like that. Jeff Sims is a transfer. Tony White was not a coordinator. Like, that's a great hire. Don't compare anyone in the country fairly to Deion Sanders. Matt Rule could try and kidnap the Wu-Tang Clan, and he couldn't get them to Lincoln, Nebraska. Deion is different. So, no, that's not a fair comparison, buddy, but go on.
No, I'll digress on that. But back to with Baylor, though, going back to the home front here, I'm beginning to wonder if play calling is still not a thing that we're struggling with. Because it seems like why can't we do some little bubble screens to get this great wide receiver core that we have, to get them in the action, get the ball out of Sawyer's hands, get the ball out on the ends, let those guys go to work. I mean, we've got speed on the outside, but we're not using it. And they're saying, hey, if we don't trust the guy to throw deep, throw these short stuff, get his confidence up.
Yeah, Joe, thanks for your call. I don't know. There's a lot of things play calling wise, but part of it, I think, is comfort. I mean, Monterey Baldwin's not really been a factor these 2 weeks.
No, he's in his own head or something, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know. It's a very interesting thing right here. A&M, I thought they were going to score there. Nope, but got real close. Man, this is going to be heated in Miami. A&M blocked a punt early on, just throwing that out there. But yeah, I don't know what the play calling issue. I don't know if the play calling is the issue or if the talent is the issue right now, or if it's kind of intersected, because those things kind of work hand in hand. But like Monterey Baldwin's not been a factor in either of these two games. They've not even really tried to throw one deep to him. Keytron Jackson obviously is a guy who can play. Hal Presley has shown a lot.
Yeah.
So they've got two big receivers on the outside that can make plays. Burton has Noah Burton has kind of surpassed the slot receiver Monterey Baldwin the last couple weeks and been more reliable. They're not getting everything consistent at once.
No.
So that's your problem. I don't know if it's play calling. It's that you're trying to deal with inconsistency last week terribly in the offensive line. And then inconsistency this week, and you've got a quarterback making his first start, and you still don't know what's coming from that offensive line, which was better today. Obviously better, but still inconsistent,
I think that's what it is at the end of the day. I think you can't, I don't care what play you're calling or who you have on the field. If your offensive line can't open up holes for your running backs, or they can't, create time for your quarterback to be in the pocket, even if you're trying to get the ball out quick, you're not going to be successful. To me, that's really where it starts. You got to find a way to get that group better. And I don't know how you can do it right now. And ultimately, they have no depth behind it to really do it. But yeah, I mean, I understand people getting frustrated, and the play calling I get to an extent, but I feel like the underlying factor is the offensive line is contributing to why you can't get those play calls.
Yeah, I think the lack of faith they have in the offensive line, especially when you're talking about screens, you're either, I heard John Madden say this years ago, you're either a good screen team or you're a bad screen team. And you'll know a bad screen team because they don't run it.
That's a good point.
That's what he says. Look, you'll know if a team is good or bad at running screens if they just don't run them.
Yeah.
Or if they you'll see them run it a couple times and then it's just gone out of their book. And maybe that's not what Baylor is right now. So their offense in the RVO is based on the receivers getting further down the field. So the short routes are more quick slants as opposed to screens.
Right.
Because the goal is for your offensive line and your running back to pummel, and then you take shots. Mm-hmm. They have not been able, last week they couldn't run the ball, so RVO's out the window.
Yep.
This week they were running the ball a little bit better, but when they got in situations where they had to throw the ball, they couldn't do it. So I honestly don't think that play calling is the issue here. I think they've got continuity problems, which is on the coaching staff. I think they've got talent development issues at this point.
Yeah.
But I don't think that anything is different, because if you remember how that offense was running with Abram Smith and Treston Ebner, and what they had was a pretty darn good offense.
It was. I know one area of concern, especially talking about the offense from this standpoint, the red zone offense was awful.
Yeah.
They could move the field, and once they got inside the 20, there was nothing doing. Utah was able to load the box, come on top of them. They had no threat. You had to settle for field goals. That's inexcusable. And that is something, especially when you have talented backs like you do, you should be finding the end zone with ease. That is a major area of concern right now for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to Kyle and McAllen, which I'm going to tell a little funny story when we get Kyle on. There is an auto screen that tells what the name is. And thankfully Kyle called last week, because the auto screen translated out to "I'll call Mike Allen." But Kyle in McAllen. Thanks for your call, Kyle. Your thoughts?
Hey, Paul, this is Kyle. It is from McAllen. We're driving up from, we're in South Texas, right on the Mexico border. I get to the Border Patrol. We have a checkpoint, and the guy says, where are you going? I said, to the Baylor game. He said, why? And, I have to ask myself this, too. I mean, listen, great effort today by the defense. Great effort, okay? But that's the only positive, Paul. I mean, we've lost 7 out of 8 last games. Maybe this offensive scheme, I hate it. I hate what it presents to the recruits. I don't think it's going to get where we want to go. But, if Aranda had this defense, we had a great defense when Rule left. Yes, we had some great players on Rule's team. Aranda has let us down defensively. Now, okay, we had great effort today, but I'm going to tell you, at the end of the day, this scheme maybe could work if Aranda would have brought in the players. We are behind the 8 ball. I mean, what do you think? I mean, really, I hate the offense, but if Aranda would have brought in the players defensively and we were playing great defense game in and game out, maybe it would have worked.
Yeah, Kyle, I think that, again, they are caught, and thank you for your call from South Texas.
Trying to navigate it.
I'm trying to put this to where
I know.
I think they got caught in the transfer portal whirlwind, and they are going, if you look, they're not shy about making offers to 4 and 5 star kids. They're in on a lot of them. But then it gets down to the top 5 and the top 3, and they fall out. And then a lot of the kids that they're signing tend to be more developmental, where they're not beating Texas for guys.
No.
They're not beating, A&M for guys. They're not beating Oklahoma for guys. I think there's a couple things that have happened to Baylor since the Big 12 title. One of which is Texas and OU going to the SEC and realignment being this whole thing.
Yep.
And so when you're trying to get those 4 and 5 star guys, now that you've got this larger SEC factor into the state of Texas, that hurts the schools in Texas. It's going to hurt them. Now, where you make that back up is in the transfer portal. And Coach Aranda, by his own admission, made a mistake 2 years ago by not diving as hard into the transfer portal as he needed to. Now he jumped back in this year, but now you factor in 2 years of this and that other schools are better at it. The fact that Deion Sanders is a thing, Matt Rule is back in Nebraska. It's never going to get easier. So they got caught in a bit of a no man's land. And it wasn't, I don't think, bad decisions. It was just unaware of all the data presented. And what we've seen the last couple of weeks about how the transfer portal has helped certain schools, now the attitude towards that's going to change wholeheartedly for most people that don't live in Clemson, South Carolina, but they're caught when it comes to talent. So they're trying to recruit to their offense, but they're not getting the guys that are really going to be NFL caliber players in that offense like they had just 2 years ago when they won the Big 12.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I also think that they're in a weird situation, and they did a good job of preventing this from happening for, 30 years. Now you've got Houston playing on the same level as you and the mecca of hotbeds for talent. And you brought in SMU with a ton of money, ego, and they're ready to roll. I think they're also, as far as getting players in, and especially in the transfer portal, the way Baylor is structured, it's more difficult than other places. And I think they're trying to tread a fine line of what their academic standard is and balance that with modern athletics. And it's not cohesive now.
The problem is that nobody can wait around for you.
Yeah.
You can't ask anybody to wait around for you to get good. So then you get in this situation where, you're kind of behind the 8 ball. But
and then now you're going to bring in Colorado and you're bringing in everybody else, Utah, who's already recruiting Texas good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's dive into the chat room. Life Rally, Paul trying really hard not to say BU has fumbled recruiting. I don't want to say badly. It's a little typo there. Look, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that they're killing it.
No.
But I also don't I'm not going to say that they don't have good players on their team or the guys that can't be developed. I just think that they're not doing it the way they want to do it right now. And so, badly. Yeah, look, they had a quarterback in that ready to go. That guy was kind of going to be a magnet player of, this big time quarterback is going to come here in Austin Novosad. That did not happen. He's at Oregon. He is waiting his chance for when Bo Nix goes to the NFL. That's where Austin Novosad is right now. So out of that, you've got to rally, and that has put them, that and several other things have got to put them in because again, they're not in the desert.
Right.
They're not in the oasis. They're in this weird spot in between where a lot of teams are, because again, there's a finite amount of guys out there and it's hard. Recruiting is really hard, and they've gotten caught in this new world in a spot where a lot of people are trying to figure out, which way to go all over the place. So, but when it comes down to this game and this game individually, I think you got to look at, yes, they made improvements. There are really good coaches on this staff that fix things, especially defensively, within a week. Now, they're not going to play quarterbacks like Bryson Barnes every week either.
Not at all.
Because when they played TJ Finley last week, a guy who has some plus athletic skill and was in the SEC a year ago, they really looked bad on defense. So when they play Quinn Ewers in 2 weeks, when they play John Rice Plumlee, when they play Tyler Shuck, when they play those guys, how are they going to be? When they play, I'll tell you this, when they play Emory Jones, because Nate Johnson came in and won that game for Utah.
Yeah, and Emory Jones looks much improved.
Yeah, but Emory Jones is a player like Nate Johnson with a lot more experience. So, and Scott Satterfield may be finally running the right system for Emory Jones. That's another thing about recruiting. Another thing. So, all right, Jackson Anderson. Paul, if you were OC, would you start Blake or Sawyer? I would start Blake. But I'll tell you, I think Sawyer Robertson has a higher ceiling than Blake. But if Blake is already at his ceiling and he's better, then you got to play him. Especially if you look at, if Blake is going to be the Blake of last week and the offensive line can get better, Baylor can win games that way. Those two things have to happen at the same time, though. They cannot operate separately. And that's the thing. I would start Blake right now. And again, Blake's not going to play for another couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if he plays against Texas or UCF. I would peg Texas Tech. I know they said 2 to 3 weeks, but I don't normally believe anything a coach tells me on a knee injury until I see a guy out there playing without restrictions. So, yes, Paxton, Smokey is at the postgame press conference. He is there. He loves those things. Let's see. Boom. Here we go. From Jeff Ward. Healthy, I'd go with Sawyer. Blake has had his chance over the last year, plain and simple. The head scratcher for me was saying Bohannon wasn't better than Shapen. They were, look, I agreed with that decision last year on Gary Bohannon based on the way that Gary Bohannon played in the Sugar Bowl. I thought he played his way into either the transfer portal or being a tight end. Now, Gary Bohannon can go prove me wrong, and maybe that decision haunted them in the long run a little bit, but...
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those tricky ones. I think Gary had the charisma. He had the locker room completely bought in, but they were looking to stretch the field, and he just couldn't do it. And I think if you go and watch him, what he's been able to do since he's gone to USF, it's pretty much the same, And then, on top of that, you had Kyron Drones who was in here, and Zeno, and, those guys have gone on, and there was complaints and, moaning. You wanted them over Shapen at the time. Well, they're not doing anything either.
Yeah.
So I think if you give Shapen an opportunity, we saw the flashes last week. I mean, it's just a matter of giving him time, because now that he's got playmakers on the outside, I think he can sling it, and I'm going to ride with him until the wheels fall off, ultimately, if it comes down to it, because Sawyer's for the future. Like, you need him going forward, not necessarily right now.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it is a sticky wicket. Jackson asked if I'm happy with Grimes overall. I don't know. Lately, no. I mean, I don't think he is either. I mean, like, again, it's not like, it's not, things are not working. They're on a 6-game losing streak. They lost the last 4 last year. They've lost the first 2 this year, and they have not looked like themselves in any moment in that time. Since the last 3 minutes of the TCU game, they have not looked like themselves.
No, they haven't.
They just have not looked like themselves with the team that they were. There were a couple losses early in the season where you're like, last year where it's like, okay, well, yeah, they lost some guys. Jalen Petrie not there, Terrell Bernard not there. Like they're going to have to overcome those things. Some of the good offensive linemen, like they just had players not there. Guys that were gone, and then it just wore on them. They had some internal strife, in the locker room on down the line. But they're on a 6-game skid right now. So who's happy with anything that's going on at Baylor? No one.
No. Dave
Aranda's not. Jeff Grimes isn't. Matt Powledge isn't. None of those coaches are. The players aren't. That doesn't mean they can't get around. But they're on a 6-game skid.
Yeah, and it makes it worse when Air Force and Texas State are a couple of those losses. But I don't know how you really turn this around because at this point, is everybody just deflated in the locker room? Like, are the messages not going through? Because we see the effort. Like, the effort's there. It's just not putting it together. And that's, I don't understand. That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, and this has been, in this 6-game losing streak that they've been on, you can point to things that are good in each individual game, but they've never been good at the same time.
No, it's like a puzzle with all the pieces scattered out.
Yeah, no, it's kind of wild. All right, well, we got one more call. We're going to do that. Nope, not doing it. Anonymous, not doing it. We don't do that.
No
on
anonymous
this show. We don't do that. You know that we don't. Stop wasting your own time. So, Garrett, final thoughts.
My final thoughts are we saw progress. You see a lot of upside in what Sawyer Robertson can bring. The offensive line has got to get more discipline. It's completely inexcusable to be going out there and false starting 4 to 6 times a game, especially when you're at home. If you were on the road in a hostile environment, I might give you a pass, but that's just completely inexcusable. I think you've got to get Richard Reese more involved. You've got to give your quarterbacks time. I don't care if it's Sawyer. I don't care if it's Blake. You've got to give them time to be able to stretch the field. If you do that, you can win. If you can't, it's going to be a long, long season.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got to start doing everything well at the same time.
Yes.
They've got to get out. Look, Long Island, here's the good news. Great chance to end the losing streak.
You better.
Then you've got some tough games ahead of you on the way out. So Baylor's got to get right in a hurry. It gets tense in a hurry. All right, thank you for watching. Thanks for listening. When you do, here on the Sikkim 365 post-game show, that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching, everybody. We're back on Monday. All 3 of us here in studio. Don't forget about my new show, The Triple Option, 1 o'clock Central on Monday. See you then, guys.